The pot roast was perfectly cooked, the mashed potatoes were creamy, and I'd even made my mother-in-law's favorite green bean casserole from scratch. It was our monthly Sunday dinner at my in-law's house, and I'd gone all out trying to make everything perfect. That's when my father-in-law, Robert, set down his fork and made the announcement that would end my marriage. "Grace, we need to discuss your financial contributions to this family," he said, dabbing his mouth with his napkin like he was about to discuss the weather. I paused mid-chew. "I'm sorry, what? Your salary. $9,500 a month, correct? As the primary breadwinner married to our son, we've decided it's time you start contributing to the family properly. My name is Grace, and I'm a 33-year-old software engineer at a major tech company. I'd worked my way up from junior developer to team lead through years of late nights, weekend deployments, and constantly learning new technologies. That $9,500 monthly salary? I'd earned every penny of it. I'd been married to Daniel for 5 years. When we met, I was already established in my career while he was finding himself through a series of part-time jobs and failed business ventures. I didn't mind, I loved him, and I believed in supporting your partner through tough times. But this was something else entirely. Contributing to the family? I asked carefully, setting down my own fork. What exactly do you mean? My mother-in-law, Patricia, leaned forward with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Well, dear, raising Daniel wasn't cheap. Private schools, college tuition, all those years of providing for him. We invested a lot in making him the man you married. And now, Robert continued, it's time for that investment to pay dividends. We think it's only fair that you hand over your salary to us. We'll manage it properly, give you and Daniel an allowance for your needs. I looked around the table, waiting for someone to laugh, to say it was a joke. My sister-in-law Megan was studying her plate intently. Her husband Tom was suddenly very interested in the ceiling. And Daniel, my husband of 5 years, was nodding along like this was a perfectly reasonable request. You're joking, I said finally. Do I look like I'm joking? Robert's voice hardened. You owe us for raising the man you fell in love with. Without our investment, Daniel wouldn't be who he is today. A man who lives off his wife's income? The words slipped out before I could stop them. The table went silent. Daniel's face flushed red. Grace, what? It's true. I've been paying our rent, our bills, our groceries, your car payment, your gym membership. Because you make more money. Daniel protested. That's what partners do. Partners, yes. But your parents aren't my partners, Daniel. And they're asking me to hand over my entire salary because they, what? Did their job as parents. Patricia's fake smile disappeared. How dare you minimize what we've done? Do you know how much we sacrificed for our children? Every parent makes sacrifices, I said. That doesn't mean their children's spouses owe them a salary for life. Robert slammed his hand on the table, making the dishes jump. This is exactly the kind of disrespect we expected from you. Daniel told us you were selfish with money, and here's the proof. I turned to my husband, my heart sinking. You told them I was selfish with money? Daniel couldn't meet my eyes. You were kind of tight with it, Grace. Remember when I wanted to invest in Brad's cryptocurrency startup? You said no, because it was a scam. Brad's in jail now. That's not the point, Daniel muttered. Then what is the point? I stood up, my voice rising. The point is that your parents think they own me because they raised you. The point is that you agree with them. Sit down, Robert commanded. You're making a scene. No. I pulled off my wedding ring, my hands shaking with rage and hurt. You want to know what I owe you for raising Daniel? Nothing. You chose to have children. You chose to raise them. That was your responsibility, not an investment scheme. I placed the ring on the table with a soft clink. And Daniel, if you think I owe your parents my salary, then you don't see me as your wife. You see me as your cash cow. Grace, don't be dramatic, Daniel started. Dramatic? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Your parents just demanded my entire salary, and you're nodding along like it's reasonable. That's not dramatic, Daniel. That's insane. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Behind me, I could hear the explosion of voices. Patricia calling me ungrateful, Robert threatening to cut Daniel out of the will if he didn't control his wife, Megan finally speaking up to say this was crazy. But the only voice I didn't hear was Daniel's, defending me. I drove home in a blur of tears and rage. 5 years of marriage, and this was how it ended? Over a pot roast dinner where my in-laws decided I was their personal ATM? That night, I stayed in a hotel. I couldn't face going back to the apartment I shared with Daniel, the apartment I paid for entirely. My phone buzzed constantly with calls and texts, but I ignored them all. I needed space to think. The next morning, I called my lawyer friend Sophia. I need a divorce attorney. The best you know. What happened? She asked, concern clear in her voice. I gave her the short version. She whistled low. Girl, that's not just divorce-worthy. That's restraining order territory. They essentially tried to financially abuse you. Can you help? I'll have someone call you within the hour. I went to work, trying to focus on code reviews and sprint planning, but my mind kept drifting to the dinner. How long had Daniel been planning this with his parents? How many Sunday dinners had they spent discussing how to approach me for money? My coworker James noticed my bare ring finger immediately. You okay? Just some personal stuff, I said, not ready to explain. If you need anything, let me know. You've had my back plenty of times. Happy to return the favor. It was a small kindness, but it made me tear up. Here was more support from a coworker than I'd gotten from my own husband. On Tuesday, Daniel started showing up at my office. Security wouldn't let him in without an appointment, so he waited in the lobby. I took the back exit. On Wednesday, he was there again, this time with flowers and a giant teddy bear. My coworkers were starting to notice. My manager pulled me aside. Is everything all right? Security mentioned someone's been trying to see you. I broke down and told her everything. She listened with growing outrage. Take the rest of the week off, she said. Work from home if you need to, but your safety and mental health come first. And if he shows up again, we're calling the police. That afternoon, I was working from my hotel room when the front desk called. Ma'am, there's a gentleman here who says he's your husband. Should we send him up? Absolutely not. And please add him to the do not admit list. An hour later, my phone rang from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Grace. Daniel's voice was thick with tears. Please, can we just talk? We can talk through lawyers, I said. I'm at your office. Security won't let me in. Please, I just need 5 minutes. You're at my office. Daniel, I'm working from home because you won't leave me alone. That's called stalking. I'm not stalking. I'm trying to save our marriage. Our marriage ended when you agreed I should hand over my salary to your parents. I didn't agree, he protested. I was just surprised. I didn't know they were going to ask that. But you told them I was selfish with money. You set the stage for this. Silence. Then, I was just venting. You know how you get about money sometimes. How I get? Daniel, I've been supporting you for 5 years. I've paid for everything while you found yourself. And you told your parents I was selfish. That's not. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. And when they demanded my salary, you nodded along. You chose them over me. They're my parents. And I was your wife. Was. I heard him sob. Grace, please. I'll talk to them. I'll make them apologize. I don't want their apology. I want a divorce. You don't mean that. Daniel, I'm sitting in a hotel room because I can't go home. You're stalking me at work. Your parents think they own my income. Your sister and her husband sat there in silence while I was being attacked. This isn't a marriage. It's a hostage situation. Where are you? Let me come see you. We can work this out. No. If you really want to do something productive, start looking for your own apartment. And a job. The gravy train has left the station. I hung up and blocked his number. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of lawyers, apartment hunting, and dividing assets. Not that there was much to divide. Almost everything was mine, paid for with my salary. Daniel tried to claim he was entitled to alimony since I'd been supporting him, but my lawyer shut that down quickly. He's capable of working, she said. He chose not to. No judge is going to award him alimony for being voluntarily unemployed. The in-laws tried their own tactics. Robert called my boss claiming I'd stolen money from them. Fortunately, my company took it seriously, investigated, and found nothing because there was nothing to find. They also sent him a cease and desist letter. Patricia started a smear campaign on social media, calling me a gold digger who'd abandoned her son. The irony of calling the primary breadwinner a gold digger wasn't lost on anyone. Her own friends started calling her out in the comments. Megan reached out once, texting an apology for not speaking up at dinner. I appreciated it, but didn't respond. She'd shown me who she was when it mattered. The divorce was finalized in record time. Daniel didn't contest it. He couldn't afford a lawyer, and his parents, despite all their talk about family, wouldn't pay for one. Turns out their wealth was mostly image. They were drowning in debt, which explained why they'd wanted my salary. 6 months after that fateful dinner, I was thriving. I'd gotten a promotion and a raise, now making $11,000 a month. I had a beautiful apartment downtown, a growing savings account, and peace of mind. I'd even started dating again, a fellow engineer named Marcus who insisted on splitting checks and had a healthy relationship with his family. One evening, I was having dinner with Marcus when my phone buzzed. It was Megan. "Daniel's not doing well," her text read. "He's living with mom and dad. No job. Drinks too much. They're all fighting constantly about money. Dad had to sell his boat. Mom complains about you daily. I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better." I showed Marcus the text. He shook his head. "They really thought you'd just hand over your salary? They thought I'd do anything to keep Daniel," I said. "They were wrong. Their loss," he said, raising his glass. "To boundaries and self-respect. To knowing your worth," I added, clinking my glass against his. A year later, I heard through mutual friends that Daniel had finally gotten a job, retail at an electronics store. His parents were still demanding he contribute to their household expenses, and he was living in their basement, trying to save enough to move out. The irony was delicious. They'd raised him to be dependent, and now they were stuck with the consequences. Patricia had to get a part-time job for the first time in decades. Robert's business was struggling without the cash infusions he'd apparently been getting from other family members over the years. The house of cards had collapsed, all because they'd gotten too greedy and targeted the wrong daughter-in-law. As for me, I learned valuable lessons about red flags I'd ignored. Daniel's lack of ambition, his parents' subtle comments about my income, the way they'd always treated me as an outsider who should be grateful to be included. It had all been there, warning signs I'd explained away because I was in love. But the biggest lesson? Never, ever let anyone make you feel guilty for your success. I'd worked hard for my salary. I'd earned every penny through skill, dedication, and sacrifice. The idea that I owed it to anyone, especially people who'd done nothing but raise their own child, was absurd. Sometimes I think about that Sunday dinner. How different my life would be if I'd just nodded along, handed over my banking information, accepted my fate as the family cash cow. I'd be broke, miserable, and still sitting at that table while Robert and Patricia decided how much allowance their son's wife deserved from her own salary. Instead, I stood up. I threw that ring on the table. I chose myself. Best decision I ever made. If you're watching this and facing similar pressure, remember, you don't owe anyone your success. Not your spouse, not their family, not anyone who thinks your hard work is their retirement plan. Your salary is yours. Your success is yours. And anyone who truly loves you would never try to take that away. Thank you for listening to my story. Stand up for yourself. You're worth it.